Welcome back to the Gospel Sports Truth Podcast. This is my favorite time of week. We get to watch a little bit of football and then salivate for what is to come. We have so many things going on this weekend that are going to be uh, very instrumental in figuring out what's going to happen with the real world NFL playoffs. We have fantasy football playoffs going on this weekend, so really excited for all that's going on there. We got a lot of NBA action, um, college action going on, men's and women's, all that good stuff. So many things going on. We're close to the holidays. We just got over a holiday. This wonderful time of year. With that being said, I am your host, Zay, the fantasy football fiend himself, and I have my guy BK Wins. How the people, BK?
Hey, all.
Look, for those of you that don't know, which is a very minute portion of you, the reason BK Wins is BK's nickname is because this is legit. I'm bragging on my friend for just. Is it okay if BK won't brag? Is it okay if I brag for you for just a second, BK?
I'll allow it.
I appreciate it, buddy. First year ever having a return on my investment as far as Vegas is concerned. I've never been a big gambler, still not a big gambler, but I now understand the world of Vegas because of BK Wins. Um, I'm a, I'm up close to 400% over where I started at this point,
That's
and that
awesome.
is 90% BK bets, and then understanding why BK makes his picks. So a few other ones made on my own that has kind of encompassed that. But BK never, well, I'm gonna say I wouldn't say never, but he rarely brags on himself. But for those of you that have been following, right now isn't even his hot streak, and he's only getting like two wrong per weekend. Prior to NFL starting, he had like a 10 events. Like we went from tennis to hockey to even the presidential election. Like everything that could be bet on that BK gave you insight on, it struck. So that's why his name is BK Wins. With all that being said, let's get into the actual show. Got a
I
lot
almost,
going on.
I almost don't want to stop this love I'm getting. We could do a whole show. No, all joking aside, I appreciate it, buddy, and I'm glad I could help you, and I hope all of you have profited from this year's advice for sure. It's been one heck of a ride. We're going to try to keep it going this week, but. Good word of the week. We're going to start it out right fast and furious like we do. The man, the myth, the legend, legendary coach Bill Belichick is back. He's the new head coach officially at North Carolina. I've been dying to ask you all week, Zay. What do you
That's
think
not
of
the
the
Panthers, by the way.
move? Yes, the North Carolina Tar Heels in college football, just to be clear. What do you think of the move? How do you think it will go? And I guess the other question is, are you surprised he didn't hold out for an NFL job?
Um, I think it was a very Belichickian move. What I mean by that is Bill isn't going to do what everyone else does. He's going to do what he wants. If I had to sum up Bill Belichick with one thought, that would be he's going to do it his way, right? So it wouldn't be like Bill Belichick to sit around and hope and wish and pray and beg and all of that stuff, right? He's going to get an opportunity to now. There's a couple of I would say a couple of birds being killed with one stone here. He's obviously not ready to retire. He still has football in his blood. That's what he wants to do. Coupled with the fact that what he was able to do is ensure that his son would have a head coaching job whenever he chose to stop coaching. So whenever he feels his son is ready, he can just say, "Here, it's already in my contract that you're going to be the head coach here when I'm done." So he did what he had to do for himself and for the future of his namesake there. Um, And I just think that it's admirable. In a time where most people are trying to, run away from college because it became more difficult. Nick Saban, Bill Belichick is basically saying, "I just want to coach football." And at this school, I believe I'll have an opportunity to bring some kids on that maybe wouldn't have been there if I wasn't there. I still have some key ties to the NFL. And a lot of these kids that are here, look, let me tell you what's going to happen. You're going to have linebackers, safeties, and offensive linemen that come off of that draft board from that school that would have otherwise not been drafted, and they're going to actually be pretty good. Those are positions that he has a keen eye for talent on that may not necessarily be the most sought after. And a lot of people are going to be asking, okay, who are those? When I'm ready to start bargain shopping, who are those guys that I should be looking at? And he's not only going to have that insight from the school he's at, he's going to have that insight from the schools he went up against as well. That may be after a couple years in college, which I don't see Belichick retiring anytime soon, right? It makes sense to have a couple of years in college so you just aren't off the reservation. Somebody's going to come calling eventually. And your worst case scenario, no matter what that team is, even if it isn't the team that you want to go to, your worst case scenario is going to that team anyway and leaving the opening for your son to not be a head coach and kind of attempt to start walking in those huge footsteps that Bill is leaving behind. So much so that I don't even know his son's name, so I keep referring to him as his son. I think it's
Steve?
Steven. I could be wrong, though.
Yes, Steve.
Okay, cool. But yeah, that's where I'm at with that. Bill Belichick had the mindset that one monkey don't stop the show. If I can't coach in the NFL, I'll coach somewhere else, and I'll get paid $30 million over the next 3 years to do so. So, hey,
So Zay, I have a few serious comments about this. And then, of course, I have, me, I can't resist a little sarcastic one-line zinger at the end of this. So I'm going to hit you with the serious part first. The telling thing to me is it tells me how much coaching is still in his blood. He misses being on the sidelines, and he wants to be back, and he still has a passion to do it. That's number one. Number two, I also think, given how his tenure ended in New England the last few years post Brady, I think he wants to prove that he can still do it. I think there's an element of how it ended didn't sit well with him, and he wanted another chance to do it. But because of how it ended, no NFL team would give him the autonomy to control everything like he does, which is the issue he ran in the last time. His teams wouldn't let him run the show. Now in college, he can run the show. So,
oh yeah, the show is his for sure as a head coach in college.
now, and he's a great teacher, motivator, and developer, and he has instant cachet. Because what college coach has had more success in coaching than he has in his career? It totally counting the NFL. Nobody, no one's close to him. So, and people say, well, how is he going to be? How is he going to be able to relate to the young players, the college students, the student athletes? Well, his best friend is Bon Jovi. I don't know you can be friends with Bon Jovi and not have a good personality, but if you don't believe he can recruit, he's 72 with a 24-year-old girlfriend. I think he's doing okay. Just saying.
He does have a connection to the younger generation. We'll just say that.
I knew you'd appreciate that, Zay, so you're welcome.
But no, you're not wrong. And here's the thing. He has a chance to do what by and large he's been able to do in the NFL, and I think it's harder to do there. Grown men don't tend to want a father figure. He gets the opportunity to work with guys who are still in that I'm looking for guidance stage of their life before they get to the I'm man, hear me roar. I don't want to hear no other. I'm alpha now. I don't want to. This is my show. Thanks for your opinion, but I'm still doing my. They're not quite there yet, most of them, especially the ones you're talking about as he's bringing in his own crew as far as that, first, second, third year of recruiting, however that works out. So yeah, I really feel like for where he is, he may end up liking this a little bit more, because it would be different if he was one of those coaches in the NFL that didn't want his hand in every cookie jar and it would be too much to handle. Oh no, this is right up his alley. This is what he was going to do with the NFL team anyway if they let him, but nobody wanted to let him. So he's going to have to show on a different level. And here's the thing, right? He now gets the opportunity, and don't hear what I'm not saying, okay, BK? Don't laugh at me when I say this. Let me get it all out before you laugh, okay?
All right.
He now gets to be Deion Sanders. What he gets to do is he gets to go to a school that has never really been known for football, like a Colorado, like a Jacksonville State, and he gets to bring them up to par in an environment where you don't have to be great anymore to get into the college postseason. You just have to be good enough to kind of it's almost like Survivor: outwit, outplay, outlast. Right? That's where we are in the college landscape now. In 2 years from now, when they go to 14 or 16 or whatever it's going to go to, if he gets his guys and he coaches them up the way we know he can, because look at what he's done with rookies. We've had standout rookies as far as defense is concerned. He hasn't been all that great with the shopping. Here's the great thing as it pertains to offense, though. You're going to have guys that'll come in that you didn't necessarily shop for, but will have the talent there. And you're in a division that isn't the greatest in the world, so it shouldn't be too difficult to be in the mix early. And a lot of those students that were looking at schools of a similar caliber are going to do the same thing that they did when it came to Colorado, when it came to Jacksonville State. Oh, I'm going here because I know for sure he has the connections on the next level. And my worst case scenario is having to deal with him for 3 years. If having to deal with that guy for 3 years gets me into the NFL, whether it be through the front door or back door channels, because you know people that I would never know unless I knew you, there are a plethora of reasons now for student athletes to go to Carolina. So that's why I'm at with it.
No, it makes a lot of sense. So there's 2 big games this week in the NFL, and I wanted to get your thoughts on the Pennsylvania showdown. The Steelers take on the Eagles, and of course, the Bills have another tough road game. They play at Red Hot Detroit. Preview those games for us, and who do you like in those matchups?
I'm not throwing water on your fire, BK. Okay? I'm not. But I'm going to put this out here before I say anything else. Neither one of those games matter. Neither one matters. Let me tell you why. Win or lose, all 4 of those teams are going to the playoffs. I would be more leery of showing too much now when it doesn't matter, and you kind of having my best practices, if you will, for when it does matter, more than I care about winning this game. For us as fans, huge, monumental weekend, right? Great games in that vein. But as far as what it may mean for the future, as far as what it may mean is as far as indicating which team is actually better or worse, any of that, I don't know that we're going to get those answers this weekend as far as that's concerned. With that being said, let me tell you what I think we'll see in these games this weekend. With Pitt and with Philly, we're going to see a hard down knockout. It's 2 teams that are capable of putting up points while at the same time having a defense that's capable of stifling the other. We don't know if George Pickens is going to go this week. which is huge for Philly, but they were able to put up points last week without him. There's some internal things going on as far as the Eagles are concerned between Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. I don't know that that will impact what's going on the field. A.J. Brown is kind of always, he's been in the vein of wide receivers from the past. He's a little bit of a diva. But I think it'll be a good game, but I don't know that it'll matter in the scheme of things. Other than maybe seed, and it's two different conferences in this instance. So I don't know that, other than the streak that can be broken if Pittsburgh loses, because guess who's the only team in the NFL right now who is undefeated against teams with winning records?
The
Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
So if they lose to the Eagles, then they no longer have that banner. That's really the biggest thing that they have to lose this weekend. Bills at Lions. This is going to be a good game because the Bills let everyone score. The Lions, they have a defense, but sometimes it doesn't quite feel like it when you look at the score. Best thing I can tell you is that game's going over. That's the best I can tell you. Fantasy playoff people, you're gonna get plenty of offense out of that game. I promise you that.
For sure.
That's kind of the best that I have for that preview.
So, in the Steelers-Eagles game, and I hear what you're saying about ultimately in the grand scheme of things, they're all in the playoffs and the game isn't tremendously impactful. Other than I will say the Eagles still have a chance for home field. So for the Eagles, it's an important thing, and we know what a raucous crowd it is there. So Philly having home field advantage will matter a lot. The Steelers have blown their chance for home field, barring some miracle. So I don't think that it's as important for them. But I'll talk more about the Lions-Bills game later, so you know what that means. But I will say that I do give the Eagles a slight edge. This is just a hunch on my part. And normally this only happens in college games where teams will look ahead. But the Eagles have been playing so well. And then last week they had to escape an awful Panthers team. And I know Bryce Young's played better the last couple weeks, so give him credit. He's looked like, an actual NFL quarterback for a few weeks here now. But the Eagles should not have struggled against the lowly Panthers at home, which to me tells me that they were looking ahead to this game. I expect a much better effort out of the Eagles at home, much like we saw a couple weeks ago at Baltimore where they beat them. I think we're going to get their A game this week at home and not the sloppy mess that we saw last week. I've been wrong before, but that's my suspicion. The Steelers are very, very consistent. Typically, every game they play is a one-score game. They need Pickens for this week because they're going to have to score points. The Eagles are going to put pressure on you, so they're going to need to do that. I think the Eagles are going to win somewhere between 3 points and 7. It's going to be a tight game. Might even come down to the last possession where the Eagles kick a field goal or a touchdown to take it. But I do give the home field advantage to them, and I think they're going to find a way to win the game. And we'll talk about
Hey, let me give you a little bit of language you'll understand. Whichever team is getting the points, give them 6 more, and as close to a guarantee as you're going to get. That's how I've been tearing it up all year, BK, with the teasers.
I mean, listen, the teasers are big, especially in the NFL, because not to get too far on this, but your point is right. In college, there's a lot more variance to the lines. So teasing the games doesn't help as much in college, but there's nothing Vegas handicaps more tightly than NFL lines. So even a point makes a huge difference in the NFL. To move at 6 is tremendous. So you're absolutely right, especially knowing that 75% of the games end up being within a score. 6 points is a huge thing. So no wonder
Huge.
why you're killing it. Someone gave you good advice there. I don't know who that was.
Hey, between good advice and
Um,
1 + 1 = 2 instead of 11, like what you start to do is look at the numbers instead of looking at the names, and you realize that it doesn't matter who's playing who. The, the biggest advice that I can give to anyone: forget what you think, be on the side of Vegas, go against the public. Like I put together parlay teasers just all based on who the public is heavy on. I go the opposite no matter what my mind says to do, and give that team that the public is heavy against an extra 6 points. So I'm on the side of the house and I'm getting 6 points. It's worked out well, BK. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
the contrarian play is always good. There's a reason why Vegas has those big buildings. It's not because they don't know what they're doing.
Bet
That
on
is for
Vegas' side. Yes, sir.
yeah, exactly right.
What
Well
else
said.
we got?
So, turning to college football, they announced the first ever 12-team playoff bracket. I wanted to ask you a few questions. Do you think the committee got it right? If not, who got snubbed? And then I also wanted to ask you, the non-blue bloods that made it. So, not the Ohio State, Georgia, Texas, those schools. But who are some of the lesser teams that normally don't make, lesser known teams, I should say, that normally don't make the playoffs? Who's a dangerous team that we all keep an eye on?
Did the committee get it right? I think they got it as close to right as they could. I think the teams that should be in the playoffs are in the playoffs. The seeding could probably be slightly different, but not different enough that I have to make a stink about it, if you will. I don't think anybody got snubbed because the few teams that were on the outside looking in, you had your Miami, your Alabama, those were the first two out. Alabama had 3 losses, and we sat here and spoke almost every week about a game that Miami should have lost, and then they did end up actually losing, and not only once but twice. Yeah, you're out of it. And you didn't have the quote unquote makeup game, if you will, that Clemson had by making it to the ACC championship. So once you have that moniker, and we knew going into the season, if you won your title for your conference, that automatically got you a bid. That makes me not complain about Clemson, even though they had a similar schedule and scares in some instances to a Miami type of team. So I can't say anyone got snubbed. As far as the non-blue bloods that could be dangerous, I'm gonna tell you this. When you have a decent defense and a great run game on any given Saturday, you can beat anybody, and that's what Boise State has. Boise State has the best running back to come out of college in quite some time, as far as stats are concerned. He's dwarfing the stats of just about everyone who's ever played the college game. If he can do that and they can play defense, that travels no matter where you are. You only have to worry about one person not having the yips versus the whole team. And he's shown the propensity to be able to show up, even though the entire defense is scheming against him because they don't do much else. So Boise State is one team that I'll say is outside of the blue bloods that I'm looking at and saying, hey, they may have something there. I'll also I how would I say? This is kind of weird because I don't think Oregon is a blue blood, but they are the number one seed, and I do believe they have a great chance of winning it all. So it's counterintuitive because they are the number one seed, but I wouldn't consider them to be a blue blood. So that would be the other team that I would say, as far as the non-blue bloods teams that would be dangerous. One's on the higher end, being Oregon, one's on the lower end. So that's kind of where I'm at with that.
Yeah, no, I definitely see that for sure. I think the two teams that I have on my radar that aren't used to making playoffs or really even playing meaningful games, would be SMU. I think SMU showed a lot to both the committee and to the nation last week. And yes, my prediction was wrong that I've been touting them for the last 2 months to win the ACC. But give Clemson credit for how they played. They came out like gangbusters and really put the hurting on them. But I want to give you a little take on SMU. I'll give you my second team first and then back to SMU. The other team besides Boise State that you referenced, so I won't count them, is Arizona State. The Sun Devils are hot. They're 11-2. They crushed Iowa State in the Big 12 title game. They're really good at running the ball, and they play sound defense. The only thing that makes me a little bit nervous about Arizona State is their coach is overly aggressive on going for it. And I worry that, much like Dan Lanning at Oregon cost them 2 games against Washington last year because of his aggressiveness. There's a difference between being aggressive and reckless. And I think both of them push the envelope, and that could be their undoing. But I really do like the Sun Devils. Back to SMU, though. I'm convinced, and I wanted to get your thoughts, because at the end of the day, the committee, it was really down to SMU and Bama for that last spot. And even though I know Clemson was 12, but that last spot at 11 was either Bama or SMU. And in my mind, had Clemson finished the deal and beat them by 14 points or more, like how that was going, I really think that SMU would have dropped out of the playoffs, given the fact that they don't have quality wins and their conference is so weak. But because they stormed all the way back to tie it and were really impressive in the second half and lost a heartbreaker, I think they showed the committee and the nation that they are a capable playoff team and were deserving of that and were able to stay in. Had they got blown out, I think they were out.
I don't know, BK. The only reason I say I don't know is because I don't have that much confidence in Clemson. So to lose to Clemson at all is an issue for me. The fact that you were 11-1 when you did it makes you worthy of being in the playoffs because wins and losses matter. I can't see you being at 8 going into the weekend and being penalized so much for getting to a game that others did not get to, that you fell from where you were to out of the playoffs after making it to a game that I don't think should count against. Now, it may get you into the playoffs, such as Clemson, but it should never get you out of the playoffs. I don't care how bad you lose, because it's everybody else that's sitting at home because they didn't win enough to get there. So maybe I'll have that soapbox to stand on in the future. This year, the wins and losses didn't go the way that we had to have that conversation, and the decision of the committee, making sure SMU still got in, even though they dropped a little bit. They still now one thing that I would say is Clemson shouldn't be behind SMU. I just beat you, and you had to come back to make it close. So that would be the one thing as far as rankings. Well, not the one thing, but one of the things that I would say as far as the rankings are concerned. But yeah, by and large, they got it right.
Yeah, I don't say this very often about the committee, but I did think they did a great job. They did get it right. I don't have any issues. The teams that got left out, Bama, Miami, South Carolina, Ole Miss, none of those 4 teams were playoff teams. While they would have been great stories in different aspects of that, the only reason why Bama was truly in consideration is because of the helmet. You watch them play all year. At no point this year, other than when they blew the doors off of Georgia in the first half and looked like world beaters and then survived and escaped the second half, the only game they played great all year was that Georgia game. And Georgia's been up and down for most of the season. So
I will say this, though. Looking at that Carolina Clemson game and the fact that SMU lost to Clemson, I believe that Carolina would beat SMU or Clemson again. So, and they're both in it. So, Alabama, they looked kind of up and down all year. They had one great win, but outside of that, I would have actually had Carolina above Bama and Miami. I mean, I know if we're looking at how the games played out, right? The same way you're giving a little bit of credit to SMU for how the game played out and how close they made it to Miami, I got to give that same thing to Carolina because they literally should have beat Bama. The other game that they lost earlier in the season, their quarterback was hurt. Like there's some mitigating factors in these Carolina games, humble opinion. But yeah, and that would be stretching it as far as someone that was on the that as far as rankings were concerned, outside looking in and all that sort of thing.
So here's the thing about Carolina, right? They beat 4 ranked teams. They won their last 6 games. They dominated A&M, Vandy, and Oklahoma, something that clearly Alabama couldn't do, right? Bama lost to both Vandy and Oklahoma and looked awful on the road against Oklahoma. But the thing about Carolina is head to head, Alabama beat them. And as far as the quarterback part goes with Sellers against LSU, here's the thing. Regardless of the quarterback situation, playoff teams don't blow a 17-0 lead and a 14-point lead in the second half. Like, you can't do that at home. Like, playoff teams don't do that. All they had to do was beat LSU, a game that they had, and they were the better team and should have. And I don't want to hear about the officiating because, as you know, my dad always says, and here's the weekly plug to my dad, right? The officials, maybe unless you're the Chiefs, officials don't win or lose the games for you. So, you blow a 17-0 lead and a 2-touchdown lead in the second half. You got no one to blame but yourself at home. That's on them. Had they won that game, they would be a playoff team. They didn't. They're out. And you know what? It sucks. As a Carolina fan, I would love to see the Gamecocks in the playoffs. They'd be an exciting team. I would love to see them play. But at the end of the day, hoping, wishing, wanting, loving isn't the same as deserving. It just isn't.
I'm not mad at that assessment, BK. I'm not mad at that assessment at all. I think what's going to happen by the time it's all said and done, if we think about it right now, right? If it was, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'll share that thought when we get into our truth and nothing but the truth, because we're going to talk about a subject that will lend itself to all things being equal, in my humble opinion. So you guys wait for that. That'll be, and I'll let you know, or you'll know it'll tie to this particular subject. But go ahead and go on to our last topic of discussion for the good word for the week.
Yeah, so obviously the MLB hot stove has heated up. It has not disappointed. We've seen a plethora of moves, right? The big one, Juan Soto jilted the Yankees and went to the Mets. I'll have more on that later in the show. Max Fried to the Yankees, the ace pitcher, went to New York. Blake Snell to the Dodgers. Willie Adames, the shortstop, went to the Giants. Starting pitcher Nathan Eovaldi to the Rangers. He re-signed there. The Red Sox made a big trade. They got Garrett Crochet from the White Sox. So he went from Sox to Sox there. I guess my question is, what did you think of those moves? Did any of those stand out? And, of course, Santander, Bregman, Burns, Alonso, and of course, Kyle Tucker are all available still in one way, shape, or form. Where do you think some of those players go, and what has been your takeaway so far in MLB Hot Stove?
Honestly, the thing that stands out the most for me is Juan Soto going to the Mets. Not the fact that he left the Yankees, but more so the scuttlebutt behind why. When you were close to a deal, but supposedly the major sticking point on said deal not getting done was that the Yankees refused to give his family a suite at the stadium, and the Mets did. Fire everybody. Everybody. Because what in the world are we really? Really? One of the only dudes that showed up in the playoff run, we're gonna let him get away, not because of the amount of money you got to pay, not because of the almost $1 billion that he wants to get. No, that's fine. But God forbid we give him a suite for his family to sit in so they don't have to get harassed. Really? Really? You don't think he can swing it? You don't think he can afford it? What are we doing? What are we doing? Because of seating? Because of seating. That's why Soto's no longer seating. That's what we're doing now. I can't. I'm at a loss. I'm glad we picked up Max. Snell to the Dodgers doesn't make life easier for anybody else in the MLB. But seeding, that's why we lost. That blows my mind. So, yes, that's what stuck out the most. And maybe that's because I'm a Yankee fan. Sure, maybe. But that, I about called you in the middle of the workday just to vent when I saw that. Like, what?
Yeah, I actually got the message.
And I was going to save that for my rant, but now that I've said that, I'll pretty much just have a complaint instead of a rant. And it won't even be about this. I got to make up something else now. So that's where I'm at right now.
Well, ironically, great minds think alike as usual, Zay, because I'll have a lot more on Soto later.
Okay.
However, what I will say is I love all the activity. It's been a very entertaining off-season so far, and it's only going to get better. There's a lot of names still to move, as I mentioned. I expect the Yankees to be very aggressive. Their rumors have them attached to Kyle Tucker trade, Alex Bregman at third, Santander, the Orioles slugger as well. I think they're also going to work on a couple other trades. So they're going to be busy this offseason as well. They should be. It'll be interesting to see when the dust settles. Did some of the moves they make cover some of their holes that they will be not having or missing out on because of no Soto? But that's all that I really got on that. That ends the good word of the week.
Moving right along to our truth and nothing but the truth. First up,
are the 49ers playoff postseason chances this year done?
Done. Moving on. It's going to be tougher for them to get into playoffs than a Dollar General steak. That's where I'm at.
I think so. I will say this: tonight's a must-win game for them. We record this just so you all know on Thursday nights while the game's already in progress. Obviously, it gets aired tomorrow morning. When I last looked, the Niners were up 3-0, but that was very early in the game. I'll say this: it's a must-win for the Niners because if they win, both them and the Rams are 7-7. The Niners have to win this game because the remaining schedule is at Miami, they play Seattle, and at Arizona. If they fall to 6-8 with that remaining schedule, there's no way with all the injuries they're winning out to get in. So I still don't think they're going to make the playoffs at this point, but to have any chance, they have to win tonight. So it'll be interesting to see how that
right now it's 3-3 and pouring down raining. So we'll see how that ends up working out.
Glad we're watching this game at home and not there, right?
I mean, it's ugly. And it's starting the third quarter. So if you bet the under, the likelihood is you're going to cash in. If you had studs on either team that you were counting on for the fantasy playoffs, hopefully the second half will have a little bit more fireworks than the first half did. We are going to be suffering. Hopefully Kyron Williams will get to the end zone for selfish reasons.
Yeah, for a minute, Zay, I thought you were talking about a Major League Baseball score 3-3. Not an NFL game. Maybe someone will hit a 2-run homer or something. So at any rate, who's an under the radar NFL team that may be on the cusp of getting the playoffs or already there towards the bottom that no one wants to see come playoff time?
I think that this team is an under the radar playoff team, but not an under the radar team. And that's the Commanders. I don't think anyone takes them lightly right now in the entirety of the NFL. But being a good team and being a playoff team can be quite a bit different. If I'm other teams, though, I wouldn't sleep on them. But that's the first team that came to mind as far as guys that are going to get in and could get hot. The other team that I'm looking at, Seattle. No one's looking at Seattle, but quietly, they're winning a very tough division in the NFC West. And they're gutting out wins even when some of their better players aren't available. The best thing that you can say about a team is that they find a way to win. Seattle is kind of getting to that point now where they find a way to get it done, even if it isn't in the way that they normally get it done. So those are the two teams that kind of come to mind for me as under the radar. But at the same time, nobody wants to play that team because they can beat anybody on any given day. And unlike the NBA, you only got to do it one time to move on.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny because I definitely see both of those teams for sure. And of course, I smile when you mention the Commanders because, I'm all for my team playing well and looking good. But the team that I had in mind is actually a team playing tonight, which is the Rams. The Rams started out 1-4. They're 6-2 in their last 8 games. They had an impressive and improbable win over a Bills team. Didn't see that coming. Thankfully, I did not bet that game. But the Rams played not a good defensive game. Make no mistake, they gave up 42. But the offense was terrific. You have a well-coached team in McVay. Stafford's healthy. You get a little Cooper Kupp. You got Nakua over there. They were able to run the ball really well. They had great balance, experienced Super Bowl winning quarterback. You don't want to see the Rams in the playoffs. I'm telling you right now. They got to get there first. But to me, that's an under-radar team that if they get in, that's not a matchup you want to see. So
absolutely. And just for argument's sake, the team that's leading the division that both of those teams are in is Seattle.
Yep. For sure.
And I believe Arizona is second. If I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. The Rams may have usurped them, but I think Arizona is second.
Yeah, so it's Seattle. Seattle is in first place, the Rams, the Cardinals, and the Niners.
Okay, so The Cardinals losing last week to Seattle kind of made them flip flop. Gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So obviously we've talked about the college football playoffs a little bit, and we're currently at 12 teams. There's been rumors that in 2026 they're going to expand to 14. My question is if and when, how soon do you think they'll actually expand to 16 teams, much like Division 2 and 3 have already been for many years? Would you be in favor to going to 16? And what would be your process to select these 16 teams?
I do believe it'll end up at 16. It alleviates some issues that could arise. And also, I believe it takes out all argument for the door being closed on the wrong teams. Because if you're beyond 16, who cares? Just being honest. And let me pull up right quick. I just want to take a look at the current rankings. So we have actually, let me look at the playoff rankings. That's not what I'm looking for. All right. All right. Sorry about the wait there.
No worries.
So, if we were to look at the teams that are slightly on the outside looking in, we have Alabama, Miami, Carolina, BYU, Ole Miss. There aren't too many teams beyond that where I would be like, they actually have a shot at beating any of those other teams on any given Saturday. So if you went to 16, you had, let's say, well, obviously the first thing that you're going to do is all 5 conference winners automatically get in. Once you take all of the conference winners getting in, that leaves you 11 teams left. We're probably then going to take anyone who had 2 or less losses in any given season. That's going to give you about, I'd say, to stay on the side of being honest, being fair, maybe 6 additional teams with 2 losses, between the 2 to 3 losses, at least 5 more teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
At that point, we're looking at teams that may have 3 losses, such as your Alabamas of the world, such as your Carolinas of the world, but they showed up at the end of the season. Like if the end of the season was the beginning of the season, might have been a completely different season. No more than 3 losses in important wins or close losses. I don't believe anybody outside of the top 16 can really say that. So what I think it takes away is the whining, the complaining, the, oh my God, this team should have got in because we don't know what they should have done. No more of those teams will be outside of the top 16.
Yeah. So you and I have talked about this probably on the show and for sure off of the show. By now, probably I've made myself clear to everybody my disdain for rankings before October 1st. let's see a month of the season before we have rankings. Starting October 1st, after everyone's played 4 games, then we'll rank teams. In fact, I would have the committees on starting October 1st rank teams 1 to 25. And at that point, here's why I would do that. In my evaluation of teams, and I have no problem and agree with your breakdown of how the teams are selected, but I would add a couple caveats to that. Number one, you get bonus points for beating ranked teams, specifically beating ranked teams on the road. And so, because it's in college basketball, when we select teams, we talk about who did you play and who did you beat, right? And obviously, in these big conferences that are loaded with all these ranked teams, you have a more of a chance in college basketball to be able to get quality wins that a mid-major team wouldn't get a chance to do. So I say that to say in college, because the SEC and Big Ten have 6, 7, 8 teams ranked every year in the preseason, it gives this perception that all these ranked teams are beating up on one another. In reality, 3/4 of those teams are truly ranked and the other 4th aren't ranked, and we're getting credit for games that shouldn't count, essentially. So it wipes that argument out, and I think it's a more level playing field where we can better fairly evaluate teams versus having preseason biases and base it off of how you finished last year and what recruiters think you did when they don't even have any idea what the talent ends up being. So how often are these 5 stars, 3 stars, right? Or they don't even get to play and then they transfer and you don't even know. So I just think it's the better way to go. That's my only argument about it.
No, I mean, that makes sense. I just think we'll get to the point where no one can complain that someone on the outside looking in had a chance. And that's really all you want in sports. Everyone that has a chance to be given a chance.
For sure. Well, I got to tell you, Zay, and this will probably surprise you a little bit, because you would think, we both love our rants, and that I even have my own segment in BK Best Bets, so I'm a big fan. But I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Do you know what my favorite segment of our show each week is?
What's that, BK?
This segment. Our top 5 all-time or top 5 favorites of something random that usually isn't sports. You know why it's my favorite?
Why's that?
Because it's the one part of the show that I think people get a better glimpse behind the curtain of who we are and what we're about. And so it's my favorite part. And
I'm going to be honest with you, BK. It's one of my favorite parts because I get a better glimpse of you. So I know the people like it. It's like, really, BK? That's your favorite? Okay, I won't hold it against you.
I thought you were going to say we're turning this into a drinking game, but you know what? You can't give me too much of a hard time because your wife tends to agree with how I view things.
She does.
Great minds, you can't hate on your wife. So see?
And you're both wrong, but it's okay.
I think I'm going to accept that from you a lot better than she will. I'm just saying. Well, needless to say, this week, and it comes at a perfect time, this week, our top 5 all-time favorite Christmas songs. And I'm going to give a little BK fun fact to start. Christmas is by far, has always been my favorite holiday because it's a magical and wonderful time of the year where truly anything is possible. And I actually get the love of Christmas from my mom. And I know she'll tune in tomorrow when this gets released, and she'll be listening and smiling super big because I don't know too many people who have a bigger passion for Christmas than my mom. And so it's always been infectious upon me too. I think of myself as my 2 favorite days of the year, no judging, Zay, is Christmas is by far my favorite, but my other one is my birthday. Probably because I'm a little kid at heart, but I just love it. So With that being said, our top 5 all-time favorite Christmas songs. I'll let you start us off.
Top 5 all-time favorite Christmas songs. Number 5 for me. Actually, BK, this is a melancholy song. Normally, we look at Christmas songs as being kind of happy, but I love "So This Is Christmas." You know, you see, like they show the commercials like every year with like the pets that need to be adopted and all that kind of stuff. So this is Christmas. What have you done? And then the kids come in singing on the background. Like, so this is Christmas. It makes you take inventory. Like sometimes that's more important than personal happiness. Like taking inventory. What have I done to invest in someone else's happiness as of late, or someone else's necessities instead of just mine? And honestly, when I look at Christmas, that's what it should be about. A lot of times we get so wrapped up in self that we forget that the true gift is being a gift to someone else. So that's, although it's a melancholy song, that's my number 5 Christmas song.
Well, it's ironic because I'm going to go to the opposite end of the spectrum. You were drinking your haterade for your number 5. I'm going to restore the joy of Christmas, and my number 5 is Joy to the World. But before we move forward, in honor of you, Zay, I literally have a list of honorable mentions. So here they are.
Okay.
Sleigh Ride, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Oh Come All Ye Faithful, Oh Holy Night, God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen. I think I've covered all the honorable mentions. So none
Honorable
of those.
mention for me, BK.
All right, hit me.
You gotta have Jingle Bells. Like Jingle Bells was so close. Like Jingle Bells was almost my number 5. That's my first honorable mention. Um, Come Thou Almighty King, which is a gospel Christmas time song, and O Come Emmanuel. Those are my honorable mentions. So yeah, I had a couple of those as well. Jingle Bells had to be right there.
I'm all for it. I love it. Who'd you got
Number
at number
4?
4?
All I want for Christmas is you, baby. That's what. Look, let me tell you something. I worked at Radio Shack for some years back in the day, and Mariah Carey's Christmas album stayed on repeat, and I hated it during Christmas time because it was all that I heard, like 8 hours a day. The album was only about an hour long, so I heard it 8 times every day for 30 days. But then when I had an opportunity to kind of remove myself from the situation, I started to kind of miss and look forward to All I Want for Christmas Is You. So yeah, number 4, Mariah Carey. All I Want for Christmas Is You.
I love this one. You'll get this. You may or may not hear this a little bit later in my list.
Gotcha.
What I will share is, and I'm clearly with my lack of musical talent, I'm not the one to critique singing. I always joke that I'm the lead singer of the band Tone Deaf, except for I know I can't sing very well. So, but anyway, I say all that to say that in my mind growing up, the best vocalist I ever heard was Whitney Houston.
BK,
Yes.
you just dropped the Easter egg. You just dropped the Easter egg. The three words you just used are in my number 2 song.
Okay.
In my mind.
But I absolutely love the sound of Mariah Carey. She has an legendary voice.
Absolutely.
Moving on to where am I at? Number 4 now. Number 4. Hark the Herald Angels Sing.
Glory to the newborn.
Love this Christmas song.
That's a universal one there, BK. Love it.
Yeah, so number 4 on my list.
Number 3 on my list. specifically the Jackson 5. Santa Claus is coming to town. Santa Claus is coming to town. Santa Claus is coming to town. Yes. Gotta look, BK. I'm glad you picked this because I'm now getting in the Christmas spirit because of this Christmas song. Yes. Santa Claus is coming to town. Jackson 5, absolutely on my list.
I'm
Number
all for
3.
it. If we're playing Love It or List It, say I love it. That's an excellent choice. Love it. My number 3, one of your honorable mentions. I can't have a Christmas list without it. Jingle Bells. Absolutely love Jingle Bells. My number 3 song. Who you got at number 2?
Number 2. This Christmas. Candle sides blazing bright. We'll be caroling through the night. And this Christmas will be a very special Christmas for me. This Christmas. Absolutely.
I love it.
My number 2.
My number 2 is an all-time classic. This won't surprise you at all. Silent Night. For all of our benefits, I won't sing it. But number 2, Silent Night. Who you got at number 1?
Number 1, specifically, The Temptations, Silent Night. The way the song starts out, 3 words that you said previously, in my mind. Yes. When you hear that, like BK, look, I'm going to let you know something that you might not know. Maybe you do know. But I'm going to put it out there for everyone that doesn't know. Silent Night, specifically the Temptation Silent Night, is like a Black Christmas anthem. It's not Christmas if you haven't heard that song. Specifically by the Temptations. Look, I'm telling you, like, at some point in time during the Christmas holiday, it'll be wore out. But the first time that you hear, in my mind, you know it's Christmas time.
It's official.
You didn't know before you heard that, but after you hear those 3 words, you know that it is Christmas time. Silent Night by the Temptations. Yes, sir.
I love it. I love it.
Number
Well,
1.
so this won't surprise you at all, Zay, because I'm proud to consider you part of my inner circle. You know this. So it doesn't surprise you at all knowing me as well as you do. My number 1 song, Christmas favorite song, is Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You. In fact, I can only tell you how many dozens of times I've already listened to that song. But yes, without a doubt, my favorite Christmas song.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. All right. Enough of the mushy stuff. You gotta win people some money.
Whew.
BK's best bets. What do we have this week? And let me get out my handy dandy sticky notes right quick.
By the way, while you do that, I just got to make a point here. You know, I got all this build up in the beginning. You know, we talked about the hockey, the basketball, tennis, the election that I hit in July. People couldn't get the election right a week before. I hit it 4 months before. But in any case, NFL's been blazing. I think barely losing any NFL games over the last couple months. College has been hit or miss lately. We've had some stumbles lately with that for sure. But we're back to the NFL, and I'm here to give you some winners this week. 3 money line straight bets, and also have a teaser bet as well. Zay, your favorite team, the team that gets help from officiating every single week, the two-time defending champion Kansas City Chiefs. Give me the money line at Cleveland. Do we really think Mahomes is going to lose to the Browns? Really?
No, not at all.
So,
not at all.
The Chiefs still, while they clinched their division, they still have home field to play for. They still got to hold off Buffalo and Pittsburgh at this point. They can't afford to lose out or stumble too much along the way. Give me the Chiefs money line to win at Cleveland. In fact, I think Jameis has already turned it over twice. In the game that I held off earlier in one of the marquee showdowns this week, we got Buffalo traveling to Detroit. Detroit's been trying to lose for the last month as they showed on Thanksgiving against the Bears, almost coughing up that game, except for they got Eberflused. So nevertheless, I said, yes, I used the former coach in a verb, you're welcome. But nevertheless, this is a bad spot, I think, for the Bills. And while there's the potential that they could bounce back after a tough loss, you lost a tough physical game against the Rams, a high-scoring game at that. But now you're back-to-back road games all the way across the country against Detroit, who only has one loss. This is a big game for Detroit with Green Bay and Minnesota breathing down their neck and the Eagles fighting for them for home field right behind them. So this is an important game for Detroit. I like Detroit -2 at home to win over the Bills. I just really have my doubts that the Bills are going to be able to too much adversity on the road. I like the Lions there. The last game, this won't surprise you. My second favorite team, I'm going to ride them again, no pun intended. We're going to ride the Broncos. Coming off a bye, give me the Broncos money line against the Colts. Do we really think that Anthony Richardson's going to go to mile high against that defense and beat the Broncos? Yeah, no, forget about that. Broncos have had extra rest. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. The Colts have struggled. Richardson can't seem to throw the ball very well. If he's even going to stay healthy in this game, because the Broncos have a top 5 defense, he might get knocked out. Not that I'm wishing for that, but it's always a possibility with his injury history. Give me the Broncos. They're going to win. They're going to, believe it or not, be 9-5 after this Sunday. You can book that one. And then the tease, because I know my buddy likes his teaser. So here it is. The Commanders -1.5 with the teaser. I like them to beat the Saints. The Saints are really banged up. I think it's going to be hard for them to beat the Commanders, especially a must-win game for Washington, a game they need to have to really make the playoffs and feel good about that, like Washington there. And they're starting to get healthy at the right time outside of the Noah Brown injury. The Vikings, they're only a 6.5-point Monday night favorite over the Bears. Did someone turn back the clock? The Bears haven't won in 6 games. They went from 4-2 to 4-8. They fired literally everybody. It's kind of like the Jets. But at any rate, I say that to say that the Vikings are at home. Move that line to a half. You just need them to win the game at home against the Bears. Vikings, it's tough to play in Minnesota. They're playing really well. Give me the Vikings. So those are this week's best bets.
Love it, love it, love it. I actually already put in a couple of teasers for the week that I was just like, what is Vegas doing right now? Please send me my money. But I'm going to put together a couple of more based on what you just gave. So, BK, I'm going to throw my rant out there first this week because it's not much of a rant at this point. I voiced my frustrations earlier, and I think it's going to almost seem like a point counterpoint based on your rant. But my rant, women college basketball. Can you please stop scheduling your best games at the same time that the NFL is playing? What are we doing? I love to watch women's college basketball, but I'm not going to not watch the NFL. It's a lot of days in the week. You can go up against pretty much anything else other than that. Please do better. Like, I shouldn't have to, on a Sunday at that, I shouldn't have to choose between watching my football or watching my Carolina girls basketball team play. I really shouldn't. Why are you trying to compete with the NFL? That's not a smart business model. So, short, sweet, and to the point, please fill in on the days where we don't have sports instead of trying to compete with the NFL on a Sunday. That dog don't hunt. That's all I'm saying.
So I got to tease you, Zay. You know what? I don't disagree with that. I got to tell you, and the smirk tells you that, I don't have time on Sunday afternoon to be watching the NFL or women's basketball because I'm crushing souls playing pickleball on Sunday afternoon. So, can't hit forehand winners and watch football at the same time. So, I'll leave the football watching to you.
Put it in a Bluetooth and listen to the game.
So all joking aside, here's my rant. I said that I would talk about this later. I may be in the minority here. Won't be the first time. Won't be the last time. Zay and I are both beloved Yankees fans. Make no mistake. But I need y'all to pump the brakes. I may be probably one of the few that was actually happy that Soto didn't re-sign with the Yankees. And you're like, wait, what? Why would you not want probably the third best player in baseball behind Shohei and Judge, in any particular order you want to put them? Why would you not want them there? Did you watch what he did last year and how instrumental he was in the playoffs and all the clutch hits and all? Yes, I watched all of it. As my brother would say, I have the internet and a TV. So I got it. But here's the problem with it. Sometimes you gotta pull back the fandom part and look at the big picture. And here's the big picture. Did the Yankees win the World Championship with Soto last year? Did I miss the parade? They didn't win it. So now, granted, mostly that was Aaron Boone's fault. But as you know, I like to remind everyone. But nevertheless, Soto was on the team and they didn't win the World title. So, and if you spend all that money on one player, who, by the way, doesn't really play defense, then you're giving up the ability to sign 3 or other 4 key pieces to address key needs that you need, like third base, first base, starting pitching, bullpen, to name a few. So, what did they do with this money? Before you crucify what they did with Soto, they signed Ace Max Fried, so now they have the deepest rotation in baseball. They're probably going to trade Stroman or Luis Heel for either Kyle Tucker or some other pieces, parts, right? But they're in on Alex Bregman to play third base. They're in on Christian Walker to play first base. They're in on Anthony Santander, who played, hit slug 44 home runs for the Orioles. They're in on a few different players here. I say that to say that they already signed one big piece already. Let's see what they do cumulatively between trades and free agency. If they address these areas successfully, then I think we're all going to look back and think this was for the best. And honestly, you can disagree, agree with me, but I'm very confident in telling you, go to the Mets. You're not going to win anything there. The Mets never win anything. So go take your money. Go have your suite. Go make all that money. Enjoy New York. But you know what you're not going to do? You're not winning a title there. You're not. Good luck. You're going to beat the Dodgers? No. You're going to beat the Braves most years? No. You're going to beat the Phillies? No. So you know what? Great. Good luck with that.
He beat life. He got almost $1 billion to play a game. He beat life. He has the cheat code. He doesn't deserve to win a baseball game, BK. He doesn't. He doesn't deserve to win anything else in life after you just got a $765 million contract. There's no more winning for you, sir.
That said, Juan, if you want to feel free to adopt me or sponsor the show or throw us some coin, then you know what? And I did tell you you're the third best player in baseball, so you can't say I'm hating, right? So, feel free to give us some love. We could use it.
And that pretty much wraps it up for us for this week. We will be back on Wednesday to recap the weekend that was. But until then, remember, tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
Happy holidays,
y'all. See y'all later.